Hello, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Prompt. This is Throwback Thursday, where on Thursdays, what we do is we go back and we look at an idea or a concept or an insight that I have talked about previously, but that you probably forgot about in the interim with all the other stuff. That if you've actually been going through the entire video series here, that you would basically have amassed enough information or new insights that looking again at the earlier insights, you'll see them from a new perspective and perhaps be able to better grasp them. One of the points of this, and I guess one of the additional little tips or insights or lessons that I have here for you, is that literally the more you study screenwriting, the more you study creativity, the more action you take, the more ideas you grab from your imagination and turn into something, the more you actually do that work, the more you actually go through those processes, you're gaining new skills, you're gaining new insights, you're gaining new perspective as you go along. And what we often forget to do is we often forget to go back and revisit some of the foundational stuff, some of the ideas that we had learned previously. When you're learning something for the very first time, you may grasp some aspects of it, but as you continue to develop skills, as you continue to develop your abilities, as you widen your field of understanding and awareness about anything that you're trying to pursue, screenwriting being what we're talking about today, as you gain knowledge and skills and experience, it's very easy to forget that some of those earlier foundational ideas hold more layers of meaning and value for you. So it's good to revisit some of those ideas and look at them through the new lens, basically. So if you're here for the very first time, one of the things that I wanted to do about this time, I'll have to go back and look, about this time last month, I did a big recap episode to try to get people who are joining us for the very first time to sort of up to speed without having to watch the full month of, at that point, 20-minute to half-hour episodes that each one was, which I maintain there's a ton of value in that early stuff. And if you haven't watched this series all the way through from the very beginning, there is a mountain of value in there that you probably have missed or haven't seen or haven't understood. Last month, I decided that I want to do a recap every month. I've decided now, moving forward, we're sort of changing the presentation a little bit. Ultimately, I don't necessarily want to do a big recap episode, but what I do want to do is have another look back at kind of what this is all about, kind of why we're here. As over the past week, 2 weeks, I've started to notice that the view numbers are dipping a little. The engagement is dropping off a little. Not as many comments in the comments section. Doing a Q&A series now, doing it on Wednesdays. And people aren't asking that many questions. We're still drawing the questions from earlier in the series. And I'm starting to notice a pattern. I'm starting to notice a pattern that you may notice as well. And a pattern that is relatively disturbing to someone like me. Because ultimately, I'm not here to be a teacher. I'm not really here to teach you screenwriting. I'm here to encourage writers to actually take action, actually follow through. So as I see the numbers diminish and I sort of look at what's going on here, is it because we've switched to this themed days of the week? Well, not really, because I haven't changed the thumbnails at this point. Is it because we're not actually developing projects as we go along? I don't know. Is it because writers are so busy working in their own projects that they're no longer sort of watching or they're watching quickly and then they're going off and doing the work? I'd like to believe that, but what I think is probably more true is that the initial excitement when this series was launched 2 months ago, the initial excitement starts to give way to, oh, this isn't just this exciting thing that's going to start happening. This is the long, slow slog of actually doing the work, putting in the effort. At the end of the day, what I wanted to cover in this Throwback Thursday is really what we're doing this all for, why we're here, what's the point of all this, why create this daily prompt series in the first place. And it was really ultimately to encourage you to take daily action. Now, to put this all back into perspective a little bit, it is my contention that if you want to actually write professional level screenplays, if you actually want to create material that actually connect with producers and production companies at the highest level, if you really genuinely want to get there, there's a skill base that you need to develop. There is a consistency of work ethic that you need to create for yourself. There is a foundation that you need to set and then build upon. And you need to develop skills, not just, look, you can't just take ideas and blast them out and in screenplay format and think that you've written at a professional level. You've put words in screenplay format. That's all a beginner has really done. What you need to do is develop those skills and develop those abilities and refine and further improve your craft as you go along, cycling through the process again and again and again on every new project that you create. Now, to actually write at a professional level, it is my contention that the spec script is more or less dead. That writing a spec script and hoping that you can knock on doors as a complete outsider, you're not really going to get anywhere. So my goal, what I've set out to do, is to build an independent film studio where we make projects as part of the learning process to develop the skills of writing for production. Now, those skills, knowing how to not just write for the page, but how to write for production, those skills are something that are simply not taught anywhere, and it's pretty much impossible to teach them because you need to actually write for production to understand how to write for production. So my aim, my goal, my ambition was to help writers basically create what is their first project, something that is buzzworthy, something probably done at a low budget level that can attract everyone and say, hey, the industry can look at it and say, hey, there's a project that demonstrates a writer with top level skills. Let's contact them and find out what they've got. In other words, it is my contention that the way you break in today is not by creating a spec screenplay and going out and knocking on doors. It is my contention that you have to do that. You have to create that screenplay. You have to be able to demonstrate your skills at a professional level. But in addition to that, you need some way for them to come to you. And so what I'm building is an independent film studio, or what I'm attempting to build is an independent film studio that creates projects that helps writers develop those skills so that when we're done, you have a credit. You have ownership of a project that you wrote or that you are part of a group that wrote, so that those doors can then be open, almost like a way of saying I won the X and such scriptwriting competition, which itself doesn't hold a whole lot of value anymore either, because lots of people can write screenplays that can win competitions that aren't still viable in a professional setting. Just because a script wins a competition doesn't mean it's viable as a commercial property. So my aim and the aim of this series is to help you change your perspective and to help you understand the bigger picture, the infinite opportunity that's available to us today, the infinite possibility. Literally, we can make movies anywhere on the planet. So if you haven't watched this series from the beginning, I would encourage you to do so. I would encourage you to go back and revisit some of those earlier episodes. The Throwback Thursday premise that I wanted to talk about today is basically that, is to actually create screenplays at a professional level, to actually not just talk about developing a professional career, but to actually develop a professional career. You need the skills, you need the work ethic, and you need the cred. You need you need to have something to show that you can actually do the job. And it's no longer just a spec screenplay because everybody's inundated by the spec screenplay submissions. What they actually want to see is that you've created something somewhere, this low budget, obscure, outside the industry thing, which is much more accessible for a new writer to create, that then generates the buzz that attracts them to your next projects. So that's what we're aiming for here. The only way we're going to get to it is by taking action every single day towards your goal. So today, I want you to think about that big picture strategy. I want you to revisit some of those ideas. If you've forgotten about how we get there, review this series from the beginning and take a deeper dive into those earlier episodes. But the most important thing today is to take action. Whether you take action for 10 minutes, just carve out 10 minutes today. Or if you have an hour, spend an hour on it. If you have 10 hours all day long, go for it. Really immerse yourself into taking action, because that's the way you're going to get where you're trying to go. Thank you for watching today's Daily Prompt. We'll see you tomorrow.